So we get a lot of cases that involve domestic violence. And that's when you have either an intimate partner or a family member where there's an assault. And I'm telling you, the Army is not joking around when it comes to allegations of domestic violence. What's your experience?
Yeah, so domestic violence, kidnapping, like a lot of areas, I don't want to say that it's not that serious of an offense, because let's just be honest with ourselves. In most state jurisdictions, it's still a simple assault. It's still a misdemeanor. But in the Army, the Army has a lot of congressional scrutiny. And as a result, you're right, the Army doesn't mess around. But as a result, you see it, in these cases, you see a lot of loaded words like kidnapping. What do you think of when you hear the word kidnapping?
Well, what I think of is somebody being bound and gagged and thrown in a trunk and driven across the country.
Exactly. And the same thing with domestic violence. It sounds bad, doesn't it? But in reality, it's a simple assault. Now, it is a little bit worse because of the proximity and the frequent interactions between the two parties. It can be more dangerous.
Well, let me paint this hypothetical for you. You're got a family, you got a husband and a wife that are in the living room, and the husband is yelling at the wife, okay? And the wife comes up and pushes him on the chest. And then he's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. He goes into the bathroom and then locks himself in there. And the wife then somehow locks that bathroom door from the outside so he can't get back out. Guess what you have? Against the wife, you've got domestic violence and kidnapping.
Both in the same set of circumstances.
Correct. And that is not what you envision when you think of domestic violence and kidnapping.
Yeah, that's an argument to me, right?
Right.
It's not a set of circumstances that should warrant such a loaded charge like kidnapping.
But that's what happens in the military, right? Now, I'll be the first one to say that, nobody should suffer from domestic violence.
Right.
And nobody should be locked into a room where they can't leave. But it's not the same as if you're, being escorted away or carried away, or if somebody is, hitting you with a club or a gun or, trying to stab you. These are significant events. And what we see oftentimes in the cases that I've dealt with personally is there is not a party at fault and a party not at fault. These are people who are equally at fault in raising the stakes of the argument. And there's not just one person that assaults the other. Typically, it's usually a mutual affray that somebody gets hit, somebody hits in response, somebody yanks the phone, somebody then takes a brush and throws it at them because they want the phone back. But only one person gets charged with domestic violence in that situation.
Yeah, so change the facts slightly. Let's just say you and I, we don't know each other, and we run into each other at a bar, and I push you for whatever reason. The law says you're entitled to defend yourself, and it's an absolute defense. You can meet force with force. Now, if I push you, that doesn't mean you can take a bottle and break it and stab me with it. You can't escalate to that point. But in that scenario, I think most people would say, the person has the right to defend themselves. Now, take that similar fact situation and apply it in a domestic context, like you just said. So in that context, why do we see so often one spouse pushes or hits another, the other spouse responds in kind, yet they both get arrested, and the service member's spouse is the one who is now facing adverse action, either court-martial or something else?
What I really like about it is when they're married and one of the spouses breaks the other spouse's phone or breaks some property in the house, and they charge them with damage to property.
Or they charge them with intentionally trying to disrupt a 911 call.
And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And if you've not dealt with these domestic violence cases on a regular basis, you won't know how to begin to defend them, right? So it's real important that if you're facing domestic violence, you contact a lawyer who's defended them. So if you're facing domestic violence charges, you need to do certain things. Like if you've been injured, you need to document your injuries. If there are threatening texts or emails, you need to save those texts or emails. If you're in a situation where there's force being applied to you, you need to de-escalate, right? That's what you need to do. If there's a situation where this has happened in the past and it's been reported, you need to gather those documents, because you need to do everything you can to show that you are not the aggressor, but the person who has responded. And that's important for developing your case. What other things do you think somebody should do if they're facing allegations of domestic violence?
Well, for one thing, when you're questioned by law enforcement, again, our first reaction is to try to explain yourself. But that is almost never a good idea. So just kind of assume that if you're approached by law enforcement after an event, you're going to exercise your right to remain silent. You can always go back later and give a statement once you speak to an attorney. But at that point, just keep your mouth shut.
Look, domestic violence cases, murder cases, BAH fraud cases, whatever case, don't talk to law enforcement until you've talked to a lawyer.
That's right.
Period. End of discussion. Full stop. Nothing else to say. But there's some other things that you should consider. In these cases, there's oftentimes a child custody issue going on. There's a domestic divorce going on.
Almost always.
There's some type of, action in what I like to call the house of perjury, otherwise known as family court.
That's right.
Something going on, right? And if there's something going on, there's a motive to, I don't want to necessarily say lie, but there's a motive to shade or to exaggerate so that it benefits that party in the civilian action.
Yeah, we see it all the time. Like, if this happens, then it might give me an advantage in this, or it might get me more money in this action. Or sometimes it's just straight up anger. At this point, I'm gonna show this person, I'm gonna screw with their military career, and by saying this.
Yeah, I'm gonna burn the house down.
Yeah,
period.
You see it all the time.
It does. If you're facing allegations of domestic violence, which oftentimes include kidnapping, you need to call somebody who knows what they're doing on these cases. That's us, the law office of Will M. Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation, we defend you.